This will be for the Kuta software worksheet, Vertex form of parabolas. So the other day, we did the properties of parabolas worksheet, and we wrote the quadratic equations in standard form. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Today we will be doing the equations in vertex form. So that's going to be y equals a times the quantity of x minus h squared plus k. So you want to recall that the coordinates for the vertex are represented by the letters h and k, h being the x coordinate and k being the y coordinate. So that's why this equation is considered vertex form, because you can obtain the vertex coordinates from the equation itself. As you can see, the h and the k are right in the equation. So if you recall the formula for obtaining the x-coordinate of the vertex, which is represented by the letter h, that's going to be negative b divided by 2a. All right, so if you look at the equation in standard form, b is going to be the number or the coefficient, that's times x, and a is going to be the number or coefficient times x squared. So you get the a and the b from the quadratic equation in standard form, and you can use this formula to solve for h, the x-coordinate of the vertex. And now for k, which is the y-coordinate of the vertex, you just plug in h in place of x. So in other words, whatever you get for h, you go to the equation, and wherever you see the x, you sub in an h. You sub in the value that you got for h in place of x, and then you will get the value for k, which is the y-coordinate of the vertex. All right, once you have the h and the k, you can use them to write this equation right here. And the value for a, you will just get from the equation when it was in standard form. Okay, this a and this a will be the same, given that it's the same equation. All right, so the instructions say use the info provided to write the vertex form equation of each parabola. All right, let's look at number 3. We see this equation is in standard form. Okay, so it is in the form of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now remember, when there's no coefficient or number in front of the variable, you can assume it's a 1. But right here we have a negative sign, so it's actually a negative 1. All right, so let's solve for h and k. H is going to be negative b over 2a. All right, we can see the value for b. B is a number that's times x. That's going to be negative 14. Make sure you keep the plus minus sign. And we see the value for a is a number times x squared. That's negative 1. All right, so negative b, keep the negative sign. And b is going to be negative 14. And that's divided by 2 times a, which is negative 1. 2 negatives make it positive, and we basically have 14 divided by negative 2. So, of course, that's just negative 7. All right, and now to solve for k, you want to take that h value and plug it in place of x. All right, so let me erase this mess here. All right, so this is the value for h. We're going to plug it in place of x. So wherever we see an x, we're going to sub in negative 7. All right, let's see. And now we're solving for k. All right, so you make sure you use parentheses. This negative sign is not squared, so write the negative sign first. And then x squared is going to be negative 7 squared with parentheses. So this negative sign we wrote, and this negative 7 goes in parentheses, and it's squared. So that's going to be negative 7 squared. Okay, same thing here. Negative 14 times negative 7 in parentheses. So write your negative 14 and then times negative 7 in parentheses. And finally, we have minus 59 on the end. All right, let's see. This is negative, but negative 7 squared is first. So we keep the negative, and negative 7 squared is 49. All right, negative times negative is positive. So 14 times 7, that's going to be 70 plus 28. That's 98, positive 98. And minus 59. All right. Let's see here. I'll just put the equal sign right here. All right, let's see. Negative 50 and negative 60, that's negative 110. So that's negative 108 plus 98. I believe that's negative 10. Let me double check on the calculator just in case. But at any rate, this would be the value for K. And this right here is the value for H. Let me double check. All right, so this is correct. We have the values for H and K. So recall the quadratic equation in vertex form. That's going to be y equals A times x minus h squared plus k. So once you have your equation in vertex form, you want to plug in for A and H and K. All right, we're just going to plug in those values. All right, so we start with y equals, and A we had at the beginning. Remember we said that A was negative 1. It was the number that was times x squared. So A is just negative 1. X minus h, so that's going to be x minus negative 7 is what we got for h. So it's x minus negative 7. And that's squared. And then that's plus k. And we said k was negative 10, so it's plus negative 10. All right, and cleaning this up, we have y equals negative 1. You can just write the negative sign. That's the same thing. Two negatives here make it positive, so this is going to be x plus 7 squared. And plus negative 10 is the same as minus 10. So that is your final answer. All right, please pause and try number 4. And remember to use negative b over 2a, getting the values from this equation, and then plug in the value for h, and see if you can get the vertex at least. All right, we can see from the equation a, the number times x squared, we can see that's positive 2. B is the number times x, we can see that's positive 36. All right, so we have the negative sign. And B is going to be positive 36. And that's going to be 2 times A. 2 times positive 2. All right, so we have negative 36 divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. And that's just negative 9. All right, you want to take that negative 9 and plug it in place of x. All right, so let me erase this. All right, so the negative 9 goes in place of x, wherever we see the x. And that's how we're going to get the value for h. All right, so we have 2 times negative 9 squared. Make sure you use parentheses on the negative 9, because that whole thing is squared. Plus 36 times negative 9. And then plus 170 on the end. All right, let's see. We have the 2. Negative 9 squared is going to be 81. Remember, when you square something, it becomes positive. 36 times negative 9, that's going to be negative 324. And then plus 170. All right, let me use the calculator here. And I get 8, so that is my value for K. And this is H right here. By the way, you can use the calculator right here in this step. I like to write it out in 2 steps. Anyhow, we have H and K. All right, so in vertex form, it's going to be in the form of y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Okay, now in order to write the equation, just like last time, we plug in for a, we plug in for h, and we plug in for k. So recall that a is the number that's times x squared. Remember, this equation in standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So the value for a is the number times x squared. That was positive 2. We used it in the equation already. So a is positive 2. X minus, and h we just did. H is negative 9. So this h is negative 9. This negative was already here, and h is negative 9. Make sure you maintain your signs, and that whole thing is squared. Plus k, what did we get for k? Positive 8, so that's going to be plus 8. All right, and now we can clean this up. Y equals 2. The 2 negatives in a row make it positive. All right, so that's going to be x plus 9. Squared. See this squared? The negative 9 is not squared. This whole thing in parentheses is squared. So the 2 negatives made it positive, and that's x plus 9 squared. And then we have plus 8 on the end. Final answer. All right, so all we did is get the h and k. We got the vertex. We got the h, we got the k, and then we use that to write the equation. The value for a we already had in the beginning. All right, so once you get the h, k, and you have the a, you just plug it into the equation. That's it. All right, on number 8, you can use FOIL. All right, so let's start by using FOIL, or distributive property. So first is going to be x times x, which is x squared. And then inner or outer is going to be x. I'll do the outer in a different color. X times positive 4, that's positive 4x. Inner is going to be 5 times x, so that's 5x. And then last is going to be 5 times 4, which is just 20. If you don't like FOIL, you can just use the regular distributive property. So that's y equals x squared, and combining like terms, 4x plus 5x gives us 9x, and we still have positive 20. Now from here, this equation is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So you can finish that one on your own. You can see the a is just a positive 1. And you can see the value for B is just positive 9. So you can continue that problem just like the other ones. You can use, let me see here. All right, you can use H as negative B over 2A with these values right here. Whatever you get for H, you plug it back in place of X, and then you can get the value of K. You might need a calculator. All right, on number 9, I'm going to erase the 9 so I can show you how to do this. All right, so this side here has a 1/2. And 1/2 is basically dividing by 2. What's the opposite of dividing by 2? Well, that's going to be times 2. So I'm going to take this whole side right here. This whole thing I'm going to do times 2. I have to do that to the other side as well. Take the whole side and do times 2. So 2 times 1/2, that cancels. 2 divided by 2, we're left with 1 plus 4 equals 2 times x minus 7 squared. Okay, and then to get this in y equals form, we just do minus 4 on both sides. It cancels here. And y equals this mess right here. Really, you don't even have to rewrite it. But I'll just do it to make it neat. That's it. Is that in vertex form? Yes, it is. Remember, vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So that's your whole problem right there. All right, number 10. We have a positive y here. We want to get this into y equals form. Okay, we want y equals. All right, so in order to get y equals form, we need to subtract the 6x squared. We need to subtract the 12x. And we need to subtract the 13. All right, you need to do all that to the other side of the equal sign as well. So minus 6x squared and minus 12x and minus 13. All right, it's 0 minus those items, so you can get rid of the 0. 6x squared minus 6x squared, 12x minus 12x, and 13 minus 13 all cancel. So we have the y, we have the equal sign, and we have negative 6x squared minus 12x minus 13. All right, now this is in the form of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, we can see the value for a is negative 6. We can see the value for b is negative 12. All right, so we call that the value for h is negative b over 2a. And the value, we have our negative sign. The value for b is negative 12. That's divided by 2 times a, which is going to be 2 times negative 6. All right, the 2 negatives make it positive, and we have positive 12 divided by negative 12, which is just negative 1. You want to take that negative 1 and plug it in for x. All right, so when you do that, you go back to this equation right here. All right, and you plug in x equals negative 1. And that's how you solve for k. So k is going to equal negative 6 times x squared. So use parentheses. And the x is negative 1, and that's squared. All right, that's minus 12 times negative 1. And that's minus 13. Negative 1 squared is going to be positive 1. And negative 6 times positive 1 is negative 6. Negative 12 times negative 1 is positive 12. And that's minus 13. And then finally, this is negative 1 minus 6. That's going to be negative 7. All right, so this right here was the value for h. This right here is the value for k. All right, last step. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. A is negative 6. X minus h, which is negative 1. And that whole thing is squared. Plus k, so it's plus negative 7. All right, and the last step is just to clean it up. The two negatives make it positive. So that's y equals negative 6. This is x plus 1 squared. And then minus 7. And that is the final answer for number 10.